We are in a massive disruption. We have been having negative interest rates, and we have a massive bubble in debt, which means that we have been always relying that in Western countries that we have a value of money. Finnish markka has been devaluated and people lost overnight large part of their fortune. You can ask from the older generation how it feels. Assume that kind of times return. So play defensively and don't assume that the things which previous generation have been able to rely on will continue to be reliable. We are going to be hitting a major disruption, something which can be even worse than the Great Depression. We don't know what it is, but we can see from other countries when their currency have lost completely value. Won in South Korea, peso in Argentina. And think about what that means, how you are going to defend yourself if something like that happens. And remember always that stock market and everything goes down 3 times faster it goes up. So when change for the worst happens, it happens quickly.
Santi production.
Welcome to Defending America. I'm on a 13,000-mile road trip to meet Finnish Americans and figure out why they want to be here and learn about cultural differences. You'll meet exciting Finns and hear about their journeys in America.
All right, we're in Pittsburgh. It's been a drive from Ohio. We've rested, and now we're gonna go get some things done with T-Mobile. Get me some sweatpants so I don't need to wear these jeans all the time. I got so fat so I can't wear any of my pants. And then we drive to New York. Are you excited about New York?
Yes, sounds nice.
But what do you need to remember?
To be careful and not to leave anything in the car.
My man. Well, okay, we made it to New York. Yeah, 6,700 something miles. It's a long drive, but we made it. Whew. Got an interview today, and then we'll try to find some stand-up comedy maybe. Take it easy in New York. We're flying out tomorrow at 7 a.m. to LA, and then trying to get a nice car for us. And yeah, it's raining. Later.
Today we sit down with Harri Hursti. He's an ethical hacker and researcher, a genius already as a child. He's been featured on HBO documentaries regarding the American election hacking, and you really should listen to what he has to say. If someone has an idea where the world is going, that's Harri. Oh, before we get on with the show, it would mean the world to me, and it would help me creating content like this in the future if you could subscribe, smash the like button, and maybe share this with a friend. See you next time.
Harri, for people who've never heard of you, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm a lifelong hacker and a security researcher. My history is in technology, in various areas of technology. I was a co-founder of eUnet, the first pan-European internet service provider. Before that, I was doing encryption, secure communication protocols, computer graphics, databases. When you start very early in the area of IT and computers, there was no formal education really available. A lot of things you had to do yourself, build yourself, learn yourself. I like the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none, which American bastardization is that they don't continue how the whole saying is. Because the whole saying is, if you say jack of all trades, master of none, it puts you down, but it continues oftentimes better than master of one. And that's the British saying.
It's okay to be a generalist today. And it seems like companies are looking more and more for generalists when, let's say, 5-10 years ago, it was more so you have to be very specialized. And maybe the pandemic changed that you can't really afford that many specialists anymore, that you want to save a little bit on costs and have more generalists.
I think the whole trend has been going on for over a decade. First of all, there are less and less people who have the helicopter view and can put the world together and understand how everything relates to itself. So I actually am surprised that the bigger trend of understanding the value of generalists is only now coming up. But it all definitely started before the coronavirus.
tell me a little bit about how you came to America originally.
A long time ago, I was asked a couple of times to help in a very specialized software, how solve certain very specialized problems. So that was the first few times I got here. One of my big breakthroughs was a atomic emulsion plasma spectrometer software, which was used for medical equipment. Basically, you compress argon gas to about 7,000 Fahrenheit. You put unknown substance into that, you get a spectrum reaction, and from there you determine what you're looking at. Today, trivially easy. Not so much in back those days. There were different kinds of software which I needed to solve, and these were specialized problems. The other thing was Bezier curves. So Bezier curves in every graphics software today. However, one of the largest computer graphics software at the time, I implemented the Bezier curve because that was a new thing at the time. So a lot of things I have done, they're today trivially easy. Everybody knows how to do it. It just wasn't the case at the time when I was needed to solve those problems. So I originally came here for that kind of things.
Do you have any pet peeves in America?
One thing what always annoys me is tipping. That's really one thing which drives me not crazy, but I don't like it. And the other way is that whenever I go, very seldom when I go back to Finland, when I go to Finland, first time I get angry is when I go to first time grocery store in Finland. That's just one thing where I go, drives me crazy how expensive everything is comparing to even Whole Foods price here.
So what makes you want to stay in America?
I was first time going to California just less than a month ago. First time going to California since coronavirus. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened as always. Whenever I'm going to California, I'm feeling I'm going home. That's really has been for 3 decades. That's where I feel I'm going home when I go to California. I have been, because of work, need to stay in a lot of places. I spent quite a bit of time in Oslo, in Norway, quite a bit of time in London. Had a place in Hopdorf and Amsterdam in Netherlands. My fair share of time in Asia. I'm used to going to different places and stay. I actually made something which I consider a big mistake. I moved once back to Finland. And it took me a year and a half or 2 years to realize that's a mistake, need to go. America is not a country. America is different. New York is very different than California. California is different between North and South. I like my spots in the United States, and there are a lot of places in the United States I would never stay. I would probably stay rather in Finland than in those places. So it's all about choice. The same way when I go to Tokyo, I'm very specific where I want to be in Tokyo or in Japan. So I just know my spots and I like where I like to be, and it's just the way. I mean, it's kind of funny. I made a bet with my now deceased movie director friend she was a Finn. We made a bet and nobody has proven me wrong. So the first bet was that if there is a room service in a hotel, one of the items on the menu is club sandwich. So we started collecting pictures of what you get when you order club sandwich, because believe it or not, club sandwich doesn't necessarily have bread in it. The other thing what we were saying, we were betting, and this is my bet, if you have lived both in London and Amsterdam, you love either or, but never both. I definitely love London over Amsterdam, even when I have lived more time in Amsterdam. But I haven't found a single person who have actually lived. Visiting is different. If you actually have lived in both, you can love both.
How do you spend your free time?
I really don't have much of that. I haven't really had a vacation. I think the last vacation was 7 or 8 years ago. It just has been a non-stop going. I mean, I used to do a lot more martial arts. I really like to be hiking, going to nature, reading, playing piano. But I would say I just simply in the last 8-10 years, I haven't really had a free time.
So does that mean that you can't focus on work-life balance, or do you just decide not to for reasons that...
I have a part-time job. That part-time job is 18 hours of work and 6 hours of sleep. Unfortunately, it is a situation where it would be a joke to say I have a work-life balance. There is no balance. When you are living in the US and your business is time zones from Europe to Asia. It's like the British Empire, the sun never sets in British Empire. There is no hour in the whole day, where some people who are working with me wouldn't be having the daytime. If there's any kind of emergency or urgent question, I've always said, you don't even know where I am, so just don't even think about whether I'm sleeping or not. Call, because we don't know where we are. When I was making eUnit and building eUnit, I had a CFO. He was a wonderful chap from Maidenhead outside of London. Because we were traveling all the time, we made a rule that we are syncing once a day by the person who thinks is most westbound calls at 1 a.m. That means that if he would be calling 1 a.m. and I would be in Finland, that would be 3 a.m. or whatever. But that's just an arbitrary time. And basically saying, well, probably you're less in the conference calls at the time. But it's really when business in the US, when you're doing international business from here, is very different than Europe. Because Europe, we know that Europe became more mobile by time, but it's still contained to 3 time zones, basically. And then maybe, occasional New York. But when you're in business in the US, it's not the 3 time zones of continental US. You all of a sudden have all the time zones. And then, again, now it's bleeding over from Friday to Saturday and from Monday to Sunday. There is no day off.
How would you define success?
My old friend, he was saying that money is a score in a video game. Who dies with the biggest score is the winner. That was his definition of success. My definition is that you divide your life to 5-year periods. And every 5 years, you have to be able to watch back and say, I changed this thing for everyone, a large group of people for better. And that is the success. You cannot change the world like that. For me, 5 years is a very quick project. That's basically 5 years is like my basic unit, and it's not coming from Soviet Union 5-year plan. It's just natural, whatever. But yeah, I'm always wanting to look back that not what I did for myself, but how I changed things in the big picture to be a little bit better.
Do you consider yourself lucky?
I don't consider myself lucky. I actually seems to be having more than fair share of unluck. But that's part of the thing.
Would you expand on what do you mean with bad luck?
I used to be more than fair share paranoid, and that's part of my work. People were always saying in a business, well, you have to start trusting people. You cannot run things with your micromanagement or whatnot. You have to be expanding. And it's very hard to find trustworthy people. When I say unlucky, that's really more than anything else is that I get disappointed by people.
I see. I think with luck I've thought of this, that I think there's an equation for it, and I always forget it's where luck is where preparation meets opportunity, I guess. And the more you're prepared, the more you try, the more lucky you get. And then the more you invite unluckiness into your life, then you do that.
I agree with that. And I agree the fact that even games of luck, so to speak, have a skill element. That's why in security and in life, the element you cannot control is the human element. And that seems to be one of those things where I need to be very careful, because you really cannot know other people. When we look at vulnerabilities, all the vulnerabilities are human-driven. They have a human aspect in that. But at the same time, humans also, they change. You cannot keep on trusting people and assume that they remain to be trustworthy. Some are, but it's more a question of, especially, it's interesting to see how the financial crisis of 2008 changed how people behave. People who are older than I am, who all of a sudden realize, for whatever reason, they lost their pension savings. As the behavior model say, it's okay to steal from younger people. They have more time. I'm just taking what belongs, it's just fair that I get. So all of a sudden, you found people who used to be trustworthy. You found a completely new behavior pattern. I'm pretty certain the same thing is going to happen with the pandemic. There's going to be a new reason why people are changing their behavior patterns. Long time ago, when I run a different kind of business, at that time, even in Finland, we had a saying that if you are, there are life events when you are more likely to become untrustworthy. For example, getting your first children. All of a sudden you have new responsibility. You have new need for money, and you're looking how to fulfill that responsibility. So there are these individual events. They are cultural. They are different from country to country, from different cultural relation, whatnot. But there's also megatrend events like financial crisis and like pandemic, which is changing what is acceptable. And if you think about the moral, we really love the rule of law. I love the rule of law. But these are the events when a massive amount of people in a society feel that it's okay to break the laws. And all of a sudden you have all kind of ramification and ripple effects in all kind of levels. And I'm really cautious at this moment because we don't even see right now what are even the short term, but mid-term, sociological events to what trust will mean in a society, what trust will mean between the friends, what trust will mean in different communities, how coronavirus and pandemic is going to change that.
So how do you define failure?
If you don't do anything. Not succeeding what you're trying to do, but trying is not a failure, it's just learning something new. Failure is when you don't try, when you don't do, when you just simply are happy or unhappy, but don't do anything. I mean, maybe that's part of the reason I don't have holidays or whatnot, or have a vacation, but I think that's the only failure is when you don't try.
What makes Finnish people unique, if anything?
Finnish people are not unique. One big thing about, the negative thing I think about in Finland is, first of all, jealousness. But even more than jealousness, the negative thing is that Finns has a self-identity which is not real. Finns are talking about how they are trustworthy. That's not true. Finns are putting a lot of characteristics as a nation, which might have been true a long time ago, but no, not anymore. A lot of the typical answers I would fight against. One thing what I really like in Finnish is the same thing what I love when I go to Japan is quietness. No small talk, no chit chat. You come to the room, there's a silent understanding. There's no need to exchange like what you have done in the last year. It's like, no, it's just, we are right now here, let's have a beer. In a sense, there's a little bit of cultures in Britain which have the same. Japanese is a lot of that, Finnish. That's what I love, and which I think is most exceptional in a good way, is the appreciation of quiet.
What does it mean to be Finnish to you? Because you are Finnish and you are a representative of the country, and so what does that mean to you?
Finland has a lot of good characteristics as a country. Finnish people have a lot of good characteristics, which are, as I said, for example, quietness. The way you can... I don't think Finns are trustworthy, but they are dependable. Very different concept. But if I have a Finnish person who promises me something gets done, that's more likely to be done. For me, it really are those characteristics. You are dependable, whatever you promise to do, you do that, and be an ambassador in that sense. Don't promise if you are not going to deliver.
Finland pops up in pop culture a lot. I've seen it on Saturday Night Live, I've seen it in movies, I've seen it in various TV shows or media articles. Most recent was the meme that Elon Musk is richer than all of Finland. Do you have any examples of when you've seen Finland pop up and you thought it was funny or memorable? Finland,
and especially Winter War, pops up all the time. And it may be because what I do, Winter War is very much known. It's more, I spend a lot of time with military people from various of different countries. So that keeps on popping up and always in a very positive sense. And it's kind of funny. There was a friend of my ex-wife and she met an older Russian gentleman who missed another arm. And when this guy was finding that this girl is from Finland, he was saying, well, I was in a Winter War and your father was probably in a Winter War. I lost my arm in a Winter War. It could have been your father. And she said, with all due respect, my father was a sniper, you wouldn't be here.
Do you have an American dream?
For me, I think the American dream is one of these days just buying a lot of land on mountain by the lake and like I say, live like a people who don't like people kind of people. Go away. Well, in a sense, I mean, it's even when I have lived most of my life in the largest cities in the world, I'm a country boy. So I like that kind of thing. So it's kind of funny that when I look what the American dream is, it is to use the one thing which this country has, like same as Finland, a lot of space. This actually is a humongous country. The average population in continental US is, I think, currently 42 people per square kilometer, comparing to Finnish, which is, I think, 15. So this is actually a big lot of empty. It's kind of funny that we don't really, in the US, exploit the benefits of having that much space. So I think my American dream is just, be a hermit somewhere.
What are, let's say, 3 main core tips for young people to make sure they're safe online?
First tip is, no matter what you do, you are not. That's very important. Today's world, how our information flows, you can do everything right. You can use every tool, every practice, and still to become a victim. And that's very important to realize. We have different countries where we have different, like what happens if your credit card gets frauded, how that works. Back the day, and still probably today, I wouldn't be surprised. In Finland, the ideology is that if your credit card there's a fraudulent charges, you have done something wrong. That's not true, because there's a processors involved. There's a lot of times where there's nothing you can do to stop to be a victim. So the first thing, when you realize you're a victim, don't think you have done something wrong. Don't think this is something to be ashamed of. Deal with the situation and be open and honest. There's no shame being victim. Now, after that, the second thing is nothing gets deleted. Whatever is either you have put or somebody else has put and attributed you, it will be there forever. We have more and more, again, data which it's not you who put something stupid online, it's someone else. We have more and more data where the data which is put about you is not true. It can be jealousness, it can be revenge, it can be whatever reason, but the thing which is now going to be forever attached to you is false, and you even didn't put it there. So again, recognize that this is happening, this is part of the life we are. This is something where some of that might be, when you find it, might be shameful. You have to realize that's something where you have to go head on, and you have to, if there's something what has happened which can come up, be proactive, saying, I'm aware of this, it wasn't me, I didn't do that, but the picture is fake, whatever it is. We have increasing number of deep fakes. We are right now in a situation where today, if I make a picture, human cannot anymore tell whether it's a fake or not. I have done a couple of things for my friends who are specialists in computer graphics and specialists in forensic. They cannot anymore tell if that's fake or not. But at this point of time, the software still can. We are not far away when the software cannot either. And then, since you said third, lock yourself out. I never in my life have been in a situation where I can access more than a small part of my money. You put a gun in my head, I cannot give you the money because I don't have access to that. If I need to get access to that money, I need to go through a process, which also means that normal hacking bank account, whatnot, that won't happen either. Since you cannot protect yourself, that's another way of looking into this. Lock yourself out of stuff, which you don't need every day.
Is there a couple tools, for example, we had a discussion with Morten Mikkos And he was saying you could use a password manager, you should use VPNs or ID protection. And those are some things that, for example, a Finnish company, F-Secure, gives out, and not to promote any single company. But I've been trying for years to see which one is more reliable than the other, and I really don't know where to even get a definitive answer to it. I'd rather trust Finns just because, I mean, I can see the company's history going way back.
So VPN is a good example. It will be criminal negligence, and you are asking for trouble if you don't use a VPN.
At all times, all the time.
Not all the time, but you just have to. You have to have a VPN available for you if you use network in open network and travel and whatnot.
Like a hotel.
But at the same time, in a recent study which was done and looking all the VPN services, 95% of them were stealing your data. So the actual VPN service was dishonest. So that's one thing about the problem in the security. The same thing with password manager, which are stealing your passwords. So the question becomes, yes, you absolutely know VPN, but you have to make sure that you buy a VPN service which you can trust. Password manager, yes, that's a good idea. If you need a password manager, most of people would benefit. There are very few people who are prudent enough to live their life without. Again, you have to choose a password manager you actually can trust.
I will ask you 10 words. Tell me whatever comes into your mind. It might be a word or a sentence. First word, blue.
Sky.
White.
Snow.
Sauna.
Relaxation.
Sisu.
Getting things done.
Black.
Death.
Green.
Grass.
Coca-Cola.
Too sweet.
The Matrix.
Around us.
Finland.
The place to be.
Love.
Has to have. Must.
What would you like to say to the next generation of entrepreneurs?
We are in a massive disruption. We have been having negative interest rates, and we have a massive bubble in debt, which means that we have been always relying that in Western countries that we have a value of money. Finnish markka has been devaluated and people lost overnight large part of their fortune. You can ask from the older generation how it feels. Assume that kind of times returns. So play defensively and don't assume that the things which previous generation have been able to rely on will continue to be reliable. We are going to be hitting a major disruption, something which can be even worse than the Great Depression. We don't know what it is, but we can see from other countries when their currency have lost completely value. Won in South Korea, peso in Argentina. And think about what that means, how you are going to defend yourself if something like that happens. And remember always that stock market and everything goes down 3 times faster it goes up. So when change for the worst happens, it happens quickly.